Perfect Cell arrives in Fusion World as one of the most consistent ramp leaders in the game. Welcome to Archetype 101. I'm Espira and we'll be breaking down Green Cell. We'll be going over what the deck aims to do, an example deck list to get you started, and some sample gameplay to see how it plays. Without further ado, let's get started. Cell is a leader released in Blazing Aura. He has a standard front side, being a draw type leader with a 4 life awaken. On his backside, he gains an unassuming effect of being able to ramp 1 energy if he's exactly at 5 energy. Contrary to how underwhelming this ability first reads, the synergies provided by his deck allow him to get max usage on most turns, leading to one of the most back-breaking endgames in Fusion World. Ramp into 8 cost Cell to recover board control and provide an additional life as cushion to live another day. Utilize Cell Games Arena to ramp or draw every turn, which in combination with your leader ability allows you to chain back-to-back 8 cost Cell plays, negating the energy destruction. Round out the strategy with the small yet incredibly powerful Cell Junior to utilize extra cards to close out the game or provide additional consistency in a pinch. We'll be going over the 101 deck list to give you an idea of what this deck does in a vacuum. However, if you're looking to level up beyond the base strategy, I post competitive variants alongside write-ups breaking down my thoughts about the deck's strengths, weaknesses, and position in the meta over on my Patreon, alongside some additional perks. I'd love to have you join me in discovering the meta and being ahead of the curve. When it comes to set 2 Cell, it is really hard to figure out how exactly the deck wants to be built. The way that Bandai has fleshed out the archetype, it makes it feel like they want to use a bunch of Earthling cards and Cell cards and cards on your board that you can then shove into your energy, and that's how you're going to get your initial ramp into your go big ramp. But unfortunately, I just can't get that to work consistently. The amount of Earthlings you have available don't totally work out great when you're curving out from 1, 2 draw, 3 cost onwards. And unfortunately, we're in a meta that is so heavy in removing the early cost bodies, whether that be your 1 drops or 2 drops, because of what other decks are doing in the meta, that unfortunately we're in a position where we can't reliably expect our cards to survive. And unfortunately, when it comes to ramp strategies, you cannot afford your turn 3 ramp to be negated by the fact that your opponent controlled your board. It puts you in a really awkward position, and it puts the onus on your opponent that if they can answer you, they negated your ramp. So while there are a lot of Earthling cards that go into working a Cell strategy, unfortunately, I cannot recommend it. So even though this is the 101 kind of just giving you a good idea build, we are going to stray away from some of the stuff that Bandai intended Cell to work, just because I can't in good earnest tell you a deck list that I don't expect to perform on any level. That said, if you can get a build that works, by all means share it. I would love to talk about an Earthling build that actually works with Cell. With that out of the way, we jump over to the leader, and front side standard draw leader, and then on the awaken side has an activate main once per turn. If you have 5 energy, add up to 1 card with a cost of 3 or more in your drop to your energy. What's really notable is that this energy comes back in active mode. So while you do, it almost seems like you only get this one time, it combos with the 8 drop to be able to get multiple procs, and the fact that the energy is in active mode means that you are one of the more flexible ramp leaders. Obviously, the takeaway here being that you don't get any defensive abilities, which can make it a little bit tough. What was making Gohan and Broly so good in the set 1 meta was the fact that you do get those defensive buffs to allow you to mitigate damage. Here, unfortunately, we don't get any of that, so we're really relying on how good the cards are that synergize with Cell to make us want to play him as opposed to the other green leaders. Naturally, we're a ramp strategy, so we go into our ramp cards where we start off the deck. And with this one, we're leaning on some sane stuff, but trying to vary it out a little bit. Specifically, we'll talk about why we're making our choices in some of the cards that we're going to see in a bit. First off, Destructive Strength, just the most consistent. And like I said, I don't want to rely on certain synergies to force us to have something on board for our ramp to get off. So Destructive Strength is just the cleanest way for us to actually be able to go and make sure we get to 5 so that we can use our leader ability if we're awakened. And if not, then at the very least, we're set up to be able to use things like Cell Games Arena, a 4 cost extra field card. With an activate main, you get to switch to rest mode if your leader is Cell. Look at the top card of your deck and add it to your hand, or add it to your energy in rest mode. So the fact that is it a dead card, we can put it away. Is it a card that we want live? We can add it to our hand. This creates great inevitability, great ramping, and this is where you get your combination of, if you get Cell Games Arena down and you're at 5 energy, then you can use your leader ability, go to 6, use Cell Games Arena, go to 7, and now you're locked and loaded to go to 8 the next turn. And we're about to see 8 drop Cell, but he causes you to destroy your energy, and you can line up your plays in a way that you consistently are able to get back to 8 energy on the next turn, so you can chain multiple cells, and that's where it's really powerful. And then we round out with Trunks Future, a 3 cost 20k with non-play. If you have 5 or more energy, add up to 1 card from top of your deck to your energy in rest mode. And then his auto once per turn is if you have a battle card cost 5 or more that gets removed, he gets a buff. That part's not really relevant. For the most part, we are running some 5-drop Gohans, but just keep in mind that that's not really why it's here. The biggest reason is here that it's almost like Destructive Strength. It has combo power, but you can't use it on 3. The benefit being, though, that we do want to make sure that we have energy open going into our opponent's turn, because like we're going to see in a bit, we're running Sensu Bean. So just having more ways to be able to secure energy while having energy up so that we can actually defend and see another day is really important. Same reason we're running Son Goku here as a 4-cost 25k, so it just helps with board control as well. 10k combo, we like that. And it's a Son Goku name, which is relevant as we're going to see in a bit. We're ramp deck, and naturally that means we need some top end, and there's no better top end right now in the game than Cell and Broly. We're actually running a playset of Cell and then just a 1-tech Broly, but there's an argument to be made to split the difference and go 3-2 or 4-2, something of the sort. But at the moment, I'm prioritizing maximizing Cell to see how good it is, and then move forward beyond that when we understand where the meta stabilizes. Cell is an 8-drop, 45k 0 combo on play. Place 3 cards from your energy in your drop. You get to choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards and KO them, then add the top card of your deck to your life. Stabilize the board, big beefy attacker, gain a life. There's very little to dislike here, and the energy destruction is where it starts being relevant, because like I was saying, you go to 8, you play Cell, then you destroy 3 energy. Now you're able to use your leader ability that you're at 5 to go back up to 6, use Cell Games Arena, back up to 7, and now you're locked and loaded to go for another Cell the turn afterwards, while still having 1 energy open to be able to make plays like Gigantic Meteor or any additional extensions that you might need. And then beyond that, it's just Broly. Hey, Broly is Broly. If you're not in a position where you need to sell, having the flex Broly to just be able to apply pressure, remove stuff off board, and attack is always welcome. The dual attack serves as like triple removal if you account for his on play. So it's just a lot of things that really help you stabilize if you're not in a position where you need to sell or lose. Naturally, we need our consistency to be able to actually get there. And with that, our choice consistency pieces are Son Goku to draw a card, Moa because this deck runs a lot of extra cards, so a lot of digging that we want to do to be able to find them. And then finally, Cell Jr. 2-cost 15k 10k combo permanent. If you have a Cell battle card with a cost of 8 or more in your battle area, you can use and play this card from your hand without paying its cost, and then you get to on play add up to 1 extra card from your drop to your hand. It's incredibly powerful because not only does it allow us to, if we play Destructive Strength, but then somehow we got rid of an extra card that we want afterwards, we're able to sell Junior, have some energy up, maybe Destructive Strength again if we're not able to find any other pieces. Effectively, it gives you the flex of added consistency with things you've already used, but on top of that, it allows you to get extension once Cell is out. Cell is an 8 cost that, is the big 45k body you got on board, and let's say your opponent's at 2 or 3 life, and maybe you have 2 Cell Juniors in your hand. Well, you use Cell, you destroy a bunch of your energy. Let's say in your energy, you have something like a Gigantic Meteor, or you have an instant Kamehameha. Well, now you can play Cell Jr., pick that back up from your drop, and then utilize it. And let's say you've got multiple Cell Juniors. There's no limit on how many Cell Juniors you can play. So in a perfect world, there's actually a world where you play 8-cost Cell, you put an instant and a meteor into your drop, then you play Cell Jr., you attack with Cell Jr., pay the 1 energy, use the meteor that you just picked up, and then you're able to play another Cell Jr., pick up instant Kamehameha, swing, pick up another Cell Jr., instant Kamehameha, swing, and now we've just swung with like a 40k, a 30k, 30k, right? Like that's just incredibly powerful. And then you still got the 45k swing from Cell. So it does a lot of work in regards to just being additional combo power. It's really great as a 10k, but also being able to up the consistency of your decks or add additional extension if you need to close out the game. So the card is incredible. And honestly, bafflingly enough, one of the cards that I would pin as being one of the most dangerous cards to ever be printed in the game thus far. Naturally, we need to do a little bit more than just play into our top end. We need some mid-game pieces to make sure that we're able to actually see our end game. And with that, we've got a pair of Gohan. So we are going to be testing out the 5-drop Gohan, 30k with 10k combo. Permanent, all your battle cards that cost 3 can't be removed by battle area by your opponent's skills. At the moment in this deck, that is only Trunks. And then end of turn, you get to either play a 3-drop, so we actually get to ramp with Trunks if he's in our hand. Alternatively, we get to choose up to 1 of our opponent's battle cards that cost 3 less and KO it. And I think that's the part that we're leaning on the most. I very much see Gohan being a play where you play Gohan, you attack into a Kefla or something like that, and then you use Gohan's ability to get rid of like a 3-drop red Gohan on board, or just any kind of plays of the sort where being a big 30k attacker is great, and then getting the additional removal, and if your opponent can't deal with them, then you just get that paid over and over again, which is awesome. Then we've got Son Gohan Childhood as our double strike of choice. I think combo power is going to be really important, especially with how aggressive the set 2 format's going to be. So with that in mind, I do want to lean into the card that's going to allow us to actually be able to combo in a pinch, even though I do think I'm going to miss the removal of the androids. And this is where that testing comes in. And green is just going to have to see where the meta settles before it can decide if it wants the removal more or if it wants the combo power more. That's going to be a vibe thing. But Gohan is a big reason as to why we're running Gokus in the first place. We've got the cantrip, which we were probably going to run anyways, but we might as well be able to run the pre-release ramp Goku additionally, just so that we can make sure that we activate his permanent, where if we have a Son Goku in our drop, he gains double strike. By the time we play Gohan, odds are with the 6 different copies of Goku we have, we should have one in drop by the time this is relevant. And then we just go in with double strike. And thankfully, it only costs 6, which means we do have openings to have energy up to be able to gigantic meteor, which is very much welcome. From there, we've got our additional extra cards that allow us to survive, which is a pretty big deal. So I'm teching in the instant Kamehameha. That's only a 1 of, but I do love the idea that if for whatever reason my opponent plays too greedy and all of a sudden I'm able to sell into like triple Cell Junior, I think the idea of having an out in instant Kamehameha to produce like 3 30k attacks before I try to close out the game with a 45k is really awesome. We're playing a pair of Gigantic Meteor and then 3 Senzu Beans. Senzu Bean is a card that's been looking to play really well in other green strategies, predominantly Broly, just because being a 30k is really good into a bunch of 25ks. I'm not entirely sure how good it is specifically in Cell, but I'm really inclined to feel that nevertheless your opponent's still going to be trying to attack you with some number of 20ks, and if we can utilize Senzu Bean to kind of make our 5ks in our deck that much better, great. But there could be a world in which Senzu Bean isn't good enough specifically in Cell, and we shift over and do something else. But for now, I think it's worth testing. While the meta is stabilizing, I am much more leaning on trying to be a defensive deck that lives, as opposed to trying to predict how the meta is going to go and then just kind of play too recklessly into something and get punished. And with that in mind, that's most of the deck. Of course, we run 4 super combos here. I have Android 16, but it's not really a big deal, which when you play, there are no special trait synergies here. Oh, one thing I do want to note though is that we're also playing Kami. Kami is a really great card because there's a lot of really important 1-drops in the format, whether that be the yellow Bulma, whether that be with a 1-drop Roshi. So in general, anything that's allows us to be able to deal with those is going to be pretty relevant. And he's a 10k combo, so he doesn't feel bad to run. So in that regard, it's more of a tech. It's definitely not absolutely mandatory. If you don't like it, you could just be running Son Gohan Childhood just to up the consistency of your searches. But honestly, this deck feels interesting. I'm excited about what Cells provides. I think Cell Games and Arena is an absurd card, but I don't know that the meta is friendly for green. But nevertheless, I think we need to explore it. We need to understand it. And with that, we're going to jump over to some gameplay to at least give us an idea of how potentially the lines will play out and just understand our lines so that we can maximize at least our output from the deck. When it comes to playing any ramp strategy, naturally, you're just looking for your ramp pieces. So that is what we are going to be prioritizing here. And with this hand, we actually have a pretty solid opening of Destructive Strength into Cell Games Arena. So at the very least, we're live on that front. I'm running Yamcha. That's just because that's what was in the deck. You could be playing Android 16 or any of those super combos. Doesn't really matter. Now, let's say we are going first. I just like being the go first because I think knowing your plays without the access to the energy marker makes it a little bit more easier for understanding what we're trying to do. So what we have right now, I think we just go with a Kami charge and pass. Opponent likely is going to attack into us. So we're going to take the life and then draw for turn. And this is what's really sweet is we got instant Kamehameha. And you can feel good about charging instant Kamehameha knowing that in the late game, you can just pick it up for free with Cell Jr. and go in. So it almost uses your energy as like a second hand where you can charge for free there and then get back its usages later. With that said, Instant Kamehameha is a much more live card than Cell Games Arena, so we'll go ahead and just charge that for now. And then we're going to swing with our leader, draw a card, see what we've got lined up. And we've got Moa, which is kind of nice. So then we can pay 1 energy, utilize Moa, and then let's look at the top 5 cards of our deck. No need to look for a Paragus here. We're just looking for additional extra cards, which there's a lot in the deck, but we didn't hit any, so the rest of the stuff is going to go to the bottom. But we didn't hit a Cell, which is nice. Does mean that we've hopefully shimmied those closer to the top, and then we'll pass it along to our opponent's turn. And Cell is very interesting because you want to use your Awaken ability on time, so you're not as incentivized to be defensive if you don't need to be with your things like your battle cards. But I think because of how aggressive the meta is going to be, if you can and your opponent only swings at 15k, might as well take the benefit of comboing it away and not taking the damage. But odds are we're playing against Top Coup or something like that. They're going to hit us with a hit. That thing's going to die anyways. Odds are we're taking 2 hits going into this turn. So we'll just go ahead and take the 2 life and then we'll pass a turn. And this is where it gets a little like iffy. We're in a position now where we need to ramp. We have to ramp. but we need to put ourselves in a position to not die, hopefully be in a good spot going into the turn afterwards to at least start making something happen, whether that be going into Gohan into something or going into Cell games, preferably Cell games, because that kind of sets us up for the future. And we did draw an 8-drop Cell, which puts us in a good spot. So regardless, we're going to go ahead and start with a charge of the instant Kamehameha. And then do we have a 1-drop to play? We do not have a 1-drop to play. So we'll just swing on a battle card. Doesn't really matter what, just to get our draw here. We did get a Moa, which it would have been nice to get beforehand, but that is fine. Then we're going to go ahead and Destructive Strength, ramp from the top of our deck. There goes a Broly. That is A-okay, because odds are we're playing against something aggressive and we probably need more defensive cards. Anyways, pass it over to our opponent's turn. And now could be if you've only swung on them once, they've awakened once. Odds are if it's top coup, they're not awakening this specific turn. So maybe they're attacking us with 3 different cards, let's just say. So here we'll take the first hit, draw into a super combo. Then we're dealing with, let's say, a 20k hit, something like that. So we're going to awaken, draw ourselves a card. And now maybe we're in a position where, I don't know, where maybe they combo Wado Moa, let's just say. Super combo. Why not? Let's just say we need to super combo out of the next hit. Now we're in a really good spot. And I will say, Cell is a leader which sometimes your opponent might opt to try to not allow you to awaken, specifically because they don't want you using the activate main. So this is just something to keep in mind, that this is something your opponent might be trying to do against you. And at that point, you don't really mind because you're a ramp deck, which means you can just be doing rampy things. So either way, from here, we're going to draw. And this is kind of like best case scenario. Like, hey, we survived against our opponent. We're at 5. We have 4 life left. We're in a pretty good spot. We're just going to use our leader ability right away. And don't forget that you do need a cost 3 or more from your drop to be able to do it. So we'll just go ahead and grab this super combo. And now we're at 6, which is a pretty good spot. And I do like this spot because if we had Senzu Bean, we can go into Cell Games Arena into Senzu Bean, which is really cool. Either way, nothing to stress about now. We swing into a battle card and we get a draw. And then let's just go Cell Games Arena here, set us up. Well, I mean, let's see, do we have other options for ramp? We don't really. We could go Cell Games Arena, and that sets us for multiple cells. And I think here we have so many 10k combos that we might as well kind of lean into the high roll instead. So we'll go ahead and Cell Games Arena. Then we'll switch it to rest mode. We get to look at the top card of our deck, and we can add it to hand or energy here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll just go ahead and get that to 7, just so that we can sell the turn afterwards. Then we'll pass it over to our opponent. And this is where it's really tough, and you just got to be a green player. And then by green player, I mean just know your defenses. I mean, realistically here, we can actually probably just play before we pass, and then we'll draw 1. And now we've got ourselves some good defense. Odds are this dies. No, just knowing how these things play out. And then there's a world in which we're going to have to end up utilizing both our super combos. So that gets us out of 2 attacks. And then maybe a Goku, and heck, maybe even a Gohan, right? Like there's a very real world in which these are the cards we have to get rid of to defend against the attack. And if it's against top coup, it might be even more. But let's just say medium roll, just to get an idea of what the deck is doing. Maybe we took 1 damage while we were there, like amidst everything that happened. And I think this is really sweet because I get to showcase some cool things. So our opponent's at 4 life. If it's top coup, they're at 3 life. Now read where we're going to go with this one. We are going to draw for turn. We're going to restand everything. And now we're in a really neat spot. I'm going to start by charging the 5k because I value the 10k combo more. Then next up, we're going to pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we get to play Cell. Cell says we get to place 3 cards from our energy. We're going to do instant transmission. And then the rest don't really matter. So I guess we can just get rid of the extra cards just for the sake of just having battle cards out here. And then from now, we also get to gain a life and get rid of 2 battle cards, whatever our opponent may have. And like, let's say we're playing against top coup and somehow we ended up in this position. Well, first we'll start by using our leader ability and get a 3-drop from here and put it back here. And now it's a really sweet spot, right? We can Cell Games Arena. We don't have another 8-drop, so let's just see what the top of our deck has. It's a 10k combo, so we could charge that or we could add it to our hand. You know what? I'm feeling a little greedy. How about we add it to our hand? Now we swing into our opponent, probably ignoring his board, right? Drawing a card. Sick. Now we got this set up. And are we drawing any additional cards from here? Not that I believe. We can actually search just to make sure that there's no like meteors in there. There are no meteors. So we actually can feel very comfortable in just going into the 1-drop of Goku, drawing a card. That's fine. That's a dead card. But now we're in a position where, that didn't go through. But what we can do is play Cell Jr. for free because we have a Cell. Go into our drop here, pick up instant Kamehameha. and then we swing with the Cell Junior, utilize instant Kamehameha, pop this goes here. That's a 30k swing on our opponent. Then we can play the other Cell Junior, pick up the instant Kamehameha again, put that in our hands, swing with Cell Junior, utilize Cell Kamehameha, turn that into a 30k attack, pass turn on our opponent, and then odds are they've maybe taken the damage. I mean, at that point, you're on like two 30k swings, a 20k swing here. Argument that maybe should have been a 30k swing to force additional cards out of our opponent. And assuming that they're top coup and they got greedy and they went down to 3 life, it is very hard to say on whether they were able to defend all of that. And then we can close out with a Cell 45, 50, 60, and 70. Now, of course, there was a world in which we just selled, went back up in life, board controlled, and then instead went for a longer game. Maybe instead with the arena we charge, and then maybe we draw into another cell or draw into another option, who knows. But the fact that we have the opportunity to be able to make this kind of play, the fact that we gain a life, the fact that we get rid of 2 bodies, when you get into the late game, you're in a good position because of things like Cell Games Arena and your leader ability and the chaining of multiple cells that keep you in that backbreaking end game. The problem is getting to that end game. And like we saw, the turn that we played Cell Games Arena, it's a little bit sus, right? We had the 2 energy that maybe we could have beamed if we saw it. We had enough combo power to be able to get there because the deck has a good amount of 10Ks. But on how that plays out to be able to defend, especially when you account for the fact that even if you get Cell out, your opponent could have a bunch of battle cards that say can't be KO'd, like A17 or Vegeta, or they have Zamasus on board that'll just come back, So it's really tough to say how well that plays out. And that's why I think, unfortunately, green may not be a week 1 pick, but a pick that once we understand what the first couple of weeks of the meta will be, what people are playing, we can get a better grasp of how to play around them and what we need to tech inside in terms of, do we need more combo power? Do we need specific removal? And what tools will we need to be able to get into this late game where we're starting to do really nasty things? Especially considering that, this guy gains a life, which does really hedge in terms of being able to live another day, because now we're just taking another hit to be able to extend our plays. So while I'm not optimistic about green at the gate, I do think there are a lot of really powerful tools there that if you can get there and get to the end, you have a certain level of inevitability that makes it really tough to counter. But it's tough to say. I can't say I've fully solved or figured out how I feel the most comfortable going in with the green deck, but I think Cell is going to lend itself to being a really fun strategy, especially one that can utilize the 8-drop Cell the most effectively. The only other deck capable of being able to do as much, I would say something along the lines of Android 17. Nevertheless, I think it's really cool. You guys know I love my ramp strategies, and I'll definitely be giving it a go with the release of this set. That said, I'll catch you guys on the next one.